One of the most mysterious figures in Westerosi legend is the Corpse Queen, the pale woman said to have bewitched the Night's King. Some claim she was a White Walker with skin like the moon and eyes like blue stars. But if that's true, how did she cross the wall, which is bound by ancient spells to keep the others out? That puzzle alone has led many to argue she wasn't an other at all, but perhaps a Wildling Sorceress. Maybe she was an agent of the Great Other itself, or even tied to the powers of the Three-Eyed Crow, sent to corrupt the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And yet, maybe the truth is just simpler. Legends grow in telling, and it could be that the story of a wild sorceress was later embellished, her image twisted, and she resembled the others we fear from the north. What we do know is this: she and the Night's King were powerful enough that House Stark and Joramun, King Beyond the Wall, had to unite to bring them down. So was she truly an other, a sorceress, or just a myth made darker by centuries of retelling?
So we have talked about this from a different angle. We talked from the Craster angle, but this is something pretty different. Do you feel as if there's a chance that this is going to play parallel to Val?
I've seen that argument, is that ultimately what the Corpse Queen's story is that it will, yes, it will play a parallel to Val, in that it's this wildling woman who could perhaps like entrance Jon Snow. The problem is that Jon has already died when he is resurrected, like he is in the show. But the whole deal is until you die. So that's like the cool part about it, is that, well, I have died. So now I am no longer bound to this oath, which is alone, by the way, pretty sick.
Oh, that's
it's just such a cool like way to do it.
It's really good.
So yeah, I mean, then you kind of lose out on it's like dark and evil part of the story. So I guess I look into it more of the idea of like the dark version of like Nisa, right? Azor Ahai stabs her, the sword comes out, and so maybe it was the other side doing it, because we still don't know if the Three-Eyed Crow is good or bad. Right. We think, I mean, there's a difference between the Three-Eyed Crow or like an agent of the Great Other. However, that's all going to play out, because when we look at Brennan Rivers, we're like, I don't know, man. It's not as cut and dry as we think. Like, it could be a much darker thing in the books. Could end up being the villain of the whole thing. We don't know. I mean, the show could have gone in a very different direction. It's very likely that it did. It could simply be maybe she was a wildling who crossed the wall, and for whatever reason, this, if she's there, and maybe she sought refuge from the others, but maybe the members of the Night's Watch viewed her as evil, because ultimately we're not supposed to like wildlings, which Jon does. He allies the Night's Watch with the wildlings, which is part of the reason they kill him. It could simply be something like that, and then it turns into a myth over time.
I like the myth. I like the
I think that's the most logical
first one. Yeah, and it also feels very George-esque to do something like that. But we have to always give room for fantastical elements in the story, because they are there, especially in the past. So you can't really rule out being a wildling sorceress or being from the land of always winter.
So, I mean, what do you think happened to where it got so bad that the Stark of Winterfell himself couldn't just go put it down, but had to unite with the King Beyond the Wall to say, hey, we got to put an end to this? Like, because how exactly does that work? How do you actually unite with the King Beyond the Wall to take out a castle that is on the wall?
Yeah, dude.
That's like the
that
crazy,
actually suggests that she's something way more.
Exactly. Like, that's like the craziest part about this whole story. Is part of the deal when they talk about Castle Black and all of these things, they say like, well, an attack from the south, they're not set up to be able to defend themselves from attack,
right?
Which is the whole reason, because they are to defend the things that come north, which is on the wall. How does that happen? Exactly.
Yeah, what's the real story there?
Does the Stark of Winterfell do something to help them come south of the wall and then attack that way, and then they, for whatever reason, they decide to go back beyond the wall? Like, that's the craziest part about this whole myth and legend of the Corpse Queen and the Night's King. How does the Stark of Winterfell be like, you know what, let's call the King Beyond the Wall to put this down? Why doesn't he just call like the Crown and say, hey, we got a problem up here?
Well, you know how the Crown is. The Crown,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think, there's some respect between the Starks and beyond the wall. Like there's something there. Maybe they have more in
Yeah.
common than honestly the Starks and King's
And were they
Landing
were they
do.
doing something that was causing the king beyond the wall to be like, "Hey, we need to put
Well,
this down"?
that's what that's another thing. It suggests that whatever the Corpse Queen's up to was so dire that we have wildlings and the Starks fighting together. Like that is
It's one of the most crazy, like, little pieces of lore in all of the A Song of Ice and Fire history and legend,
yeah,
because
dude.
it's just like this alliance of the King Beyond the Wall and the Stark of Winterfell had to come together because of what the Night's Watch was doing.
Then you could always go with like, was there a chance the Corpse Queen was the King Beyond the Wall's daughter and she ran away and he wanted her back? Like you could do that,
Yeah,
but I don't think that that would really track with why they weren't be able to just like go get her. Like you could
right.
just go get her.
Because early in a Game of Thrones, and it's actually one of the craziest parts about a Game of Thrones, like the first 5 chapter, Mance Rayder is mentioned in almost every chapter. And Ned Stark himself says, I'm hearing so much rumblings about this King Beyond the Wall, Mance Rayder. I may have to go put him down.
Yeah.
Which is one of like the sickest little like pieces of
Yeah.
information in those first 5 chapters of Game of Thrones. And now that we know ultimately who Mance Rayder is and everything, but so clearly they must be somewhat in tune about what's going on north of the wall.
Yeah, there's some back and forth there for sure. Like there has to be some like an emissary or something, or maybe they're just sending ravens.
Yeah, because I mean that's who the Night's Watch would send ravens to. But I would imagine that the rest of the Night's Watch, the people at other castles, are like, hey, this is we got a bad situation. But they're in power for like a decade.
Yeah, they are. And like what was changing during that time, I don't know, dude. But that feels major. That feels like big White Walker lore
Right.
drop coming.
And like maybe it is just as much as like she was anyone. Maybe they went to one of the local towns, the Castle Black has like Molestown, right? Or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like there's brothels there. And maybe he just found someone he wanted to make his wife. And also maybe that's part of the lore, right? Because the timeline gets kind of weird when you look back at it too. Because it's also like, when you read the timeline, it's not totally set up to where it's like sometimes it looks like the wall was created before.
Yeah, you can't tell like what's like
Which came
chronologically what
first, the
happened
Night's Watch
within
or
ages.
it's like, hold
Yeah,
on a second. Yeah. So you never know. It's kind of an interesting thing, but maybe we'd like, that's why what caused them to say, all right, nobody's having wives.
possibly. Possibly, yeah.
So anyway,
Now I will say we talk a lot about like what needs to be answered. That one might need to be answered.
a myth, legend. I don't know that we'll ever get anything more on it.
Well, who knows? Maybe the Corpse Queen is kicking.